Hey everyone, welcome back to Holy Roast. It is Rob
Rachel.
and we are so glad you're still continuing to tune in with us. It is snowing outside, so if I appear to be cranky today,
Yep.
that's
Our
when I'm blaming it.
Floridian is not happy.
Not happy at all driving in my vehicle, and like I don't know how to drive in snow, and then imagine everybody else that doesn't know how to drive in snow.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing.
Most people.
It's most people. Yeah, it's not a good thing at all. But anyways, we have made it. It is warm and toasty in here, and we are going to have a fantastic conversation with our friend Jabe Largen. So, hey, Jabe, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks. It's good to be with y'all. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah. Jabe and us, more so me, I guess, go way back, but y'all were at the same time at the school. But
Yeah.
Duke Divinity grads, student pastors together there in Durham, North Carolina, and bringing some good Duke presence back onto the podcast, which is very necessary for us to do. But Jabe, why don't you tell us a little more about yourself, who you are? Why do you think we asked you to be on this podcast? Maybe the question that we need to answer.
Oh, thanks, Rob. Yeah, as Rob said, my name's Jabe, and I am currently serving as the senior pastor of Pinehurst United Methodist Church in Pinehurst, North Carolina, which is also known as the cradle of American golf. So, been here since 2021. Prior to that, I was a student pastor for 4 years in Duplin County, North Carolina. And after the 4 years of the student pastoring, we transitioned into a full-time ministry appointment and remained there for another 6 years. So only 2 appointments since my time at Duke began, first in Duplin County and then here. The reason why I am here today is I suspect it has something to do with a book that I wrote. It is a memoir.
May or may not be.
Yeah, may or may not be, but it's a memoir and it's entitled They Call Me Jabe. It chronicles my childhood, my formative years in Appalachia, and then a whole lot of other things in Appalachia, and a little bit about ministry and some of the challenges that I personally have faced, not just in addiction, but in other areas as well. That is fairly common within human experience, these types of challenges, but it's not something that you oftentimes have conversations with clergy who are telling you about theirs. So the book kind of does that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
One of the things I wanted to ask you just right off the bat is, why? And some of that you answered in that great introduction, but why did you decide to write it in a memoir? Why did you decide to write a book in general? You write a little bit about that in the preface here. But what led you to do this?
Insanity, a lack of common sense or good sense or judgment. All these things are common themes of my life, these lacks. But no, I wanted the stories of a lot of the people who no longer have words because they no longer have breath. I want a lot of their stories to continue on because they are near and dear to me. There are people whose life had real value and meaning, and those lives were, in most cases, they were cut short tragically. And so they don't have the ability to tell their stories or our shared story, but I do. And so I felt it necessary to use the words that I have to tell those stories. Also, at the urging of some others, wanted to tell a story for the hope that it could convey hope in a world that oftentimes now feels very hopeless. And so, although I don't necessarily feel as if I've quote unquote accomplished anything by staying alive to this point, the fact that I am alive at this point is a testimony of sorts um, to hope. And so just wanted to share that the hope side of things. And then the third thing is that a lot of what life has been for me has been kind of traumatic, and um, the process of writing was actually therapeutic. It was hard. It was extremely hard and traumatic in itself at times. Um, but at the end of it, on this side of it, I can definitely see the therapeutic value in it. I'm not a very good person when it comes to journaling. I keep things pretty bundled up inside instead of getting them out in healthy ways usually. And the book was a healthy way for me to get a lot of things out that need to get out. So it kind of, it checked a few different boxes in regards to why I did it. But
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for getting it. I've known you for quite a long time, not as far as this book goes, but for quite a while. And just to hear your voice coming through these papers was powerful, moving to me. And it really helped capture who Jabe is in many different ways. Like there's this brutal honesty that went with the book, and it's kind of autobiographical type nature. There's a great humor that's interwoven between there that comes out. And so, why do you feel like this was the way that you wanted to tell your story? And I love the stories of those who no longer are able to tell their story because of loss, right? In the midst of that. So why did you choose that kind of brutal honesty memoir over something, polished and fancy? You went to Duke and Candler, two pretty prestigious academic schools, but the way that you write is just extremely relational and honest.
I appreciate you saying that, Rob. And we've known each other for 15 years, by the way.
That's quite a while.
Wow.
Quite a while.
Yeah. You've aged a lot.
Yeah. And you're just as beautiful as ever. Yeah.
Thanks. The reason why it's not polished is because life is not polished.
Mm.
To present the memoir in a way that would have been kind of sentimental and polished would have been a disservice to the authenticity, the realness of it, of the story itself. Which trust me, I've gotten that comment a lot. Like, why didn't you make it to where it felt better? And and one of my favorites is I kept reading and waiting for the hope part that you talked about, but I never really got that. I had another friend who said you wrote it really well, but it was too dark for me. And then my favorite comment probably was my mom, who I'm sure will see this and hear this, who said, "I can't wait for you to write a book about all the good things that you've done." So yeah, it's kind of raw, and unsentimental because life's raw and there's not a lot of room in real life for sentimentality. And the story itself and plus where I was when I wrote it, kind of just lent its way to this vulnerability that I felt compelled to share. And in that vulnerability, there wasn't a lot of room for polishing.
Yeah.
It's just it's meant to be real because life is.
That's right. That's really good. And part of that is, and you mentioned it before, kind of the introduction can be drastically different than what the church presents itself to be, the kind of stories that clergy tell one another or tell our churches in general. Like there's not often where you get that kind of that raw, honest depth of our soul and our experiences in this kind of sharedness between one another.
Well, I was just thinking the same thing because the truth is, as clergy, there just aren't as many safe places where we can share our deepest vulnerabilities and our struggles, and especially if it relates to addiction or recovery or we might have recovery ministries in our own churches, but it's not like we can attend there,
Mhm, mhm,
and so the raw, brutal honesty of it, I feel like would be such like, in a way that clergy aren't typically able to be raw and just brutally honest. Like that feels like just a really beautiful way of like we're just gonna say it, you know?
mhm,
We're just gonna go there. And I was interested in what some of the sort of response had been, because my first thought was, wow, I hope that this is permission giving for other clergy,
mhm,
to find, either safe places to talk brutally honest, or to start on a journey of healing and recovery, to find hope. Like you're still here, right? Like that's the hope, throughout it, as you said. Have you found that it's other clergy, have they responded that way? I'm
Yeah,
just curious.
actually, that's been the case is that um, other clergy have been like, well, I've always wanted to say stuff like that, but I didn't feel like I could.
Mhm.
mhm.
And, there's been a lot of honest sharing with me since,
You've
since
You've
early
become
opened it up.
the
November.
safe place for everybody.
Yeah, it's like now I wasn't planning on, hearing everyone's confession. Um, but yeah, it's definitely been that people, um, if they haven't already embraced the idea that they can be vulnerable in a place of leadership as clergy who are oftentimes on a pedestal,
Mhm.
Mhm.
um, if they haven't embraced it yet, I think that a lot of the folks that I've talked to feel now as if it is something that is possible for them. The only thing that I've been sharing with folks is, I have many years of sharing pieces of the story. So it all wasn't just a total shock coming out all at once. Like
Mhm.
Mhm,
nobody really knew the depths of a lot of it. Um,
mhm.
but they knew the general idea. Um, and then there's also the thing that, I was at my previous appointment for 10 years and I've been here for almost 5. There's a lot
Mm.
of trust there.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, so one of the fears I had was, just a total loss of my influence or my integrity
Mm,
through sharing it. And I decided to share it anyway.
Right.
And come to find out, I've actually gained a lot of integrity and influence as a result of
Wow.
sharing it, which
that's
has been
good.
Yeah.
a beautiful surprise, very beautiful surprise.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. The permission giving and then the sharing and the modeling of that, especially in this kind of book sharing form, right? Kind of, it's almost like this journal of your life that you're letting people into some of the most vulnerable aspects of who you have been and who you continue to be, right? You carry along these stories, this identity, as being from Appalachia, and that informs your theology and your preaching. And so my next question is, as you write about these things, addiction, grief, loss, death, recovery, how has that shaped your pastoral identity? And then in the ways that you preach, how does that shape? Like, have you preached one of these chapters out loud, to your congregation, or in what ways does it influence the way that you preach?
It certainly influences it because I mean, look, the experiences that have formed me cannot just be shut off when it comes time to
Hmm.
to stand in the pulpit or behind the podium or music stand or whatever. So I mean, obviously it comes across. I would say that, Rob, that the main thing that correlates from the book to my preaching each week is the reality of death,
Hmm.
um, and then also the way that um, so much of what it means to be human means that we also have to be confronted with the reality of death.
Yeah.
Um, and so what we as bringers or sharers of good news have to say about our humanity in the midst of death. That's important. I can't figure out what it means to be human without talking about death. They go hand in hand, right? And my story is one that is filled with death. Um, and that has shaped me. It has it has a great influence on a regular basis of how I approach leadership in general. But also when I stand in front of those people every Sunday, trying to convey good news in a world where death continues to happen. Like, I think um, my experience has proven to be beneficial in naming tough realities, while still advocating for and embracing hope. So
Yeah, that's good. You know, when I think about kind of where we are, the season of life that we are in as a church, as a denomination, as a country, as a world, there is the influence of death, and we often try to just prettify and glitter up and put on the nice masks when we come into our sanctuaries or even our small groups. And there's this kind of permission giving to say, hey, there's a realness about life that we need to address that we can't talk about where we are without acknowledging there is death going on. And that whether that's addiction or division or grief of loss of something, this is happening. And if we're not being honest with ourselves, if we're not addressing it in a healthy manner, so the ways that we address it from the pulpit or in the ways that we lead other people and our leadership skills becomes deeply, deeply important. So I appreciate that, Jabe, that we can often shy away from it rather than leading towards it in the ways that we lead and preach and guide. And so thank you for that note.
Yeah, I've always thought that as a people who believe in resurrection, we should be better about talking about death, because you can't get to resurrection without talking about death. But no one ever wants to come to Good Friday service, but they come on Easter, right? And you're like, we've really got to go through it on Friday and the silence of Saturday to feel the overwhelming hope and promise of the Easter celebration. I mean, I do have some people who come, but it's never kind of what I prepare for or what I hope for, maybe in
Same
that
response.
sense. No, and
Yeah.
I think for a large part of it, we want to, at least historically, I think the Big C church, the years that I was growing up, it's like a lot of people still, I think, want to come to church to escape it all, like to feel good, to have the pep talk, or we're living it, especially right now, 24/7 news reel, and we want to come to church and we want to escape the hard stuff, but that's not really what the cross of Jesus Christ invites us to. And you talk about naming harsh realities. I think there's now an appetite for let's come to church and we're going to talk about real things that are going on and real life and how to love real people and the crap they are dealing with. And we're going to be brutally honest. But that's not everywhere. And so kind of in line with sort of naming some of these harsh realities and how it informs how you approach pastoral care and ministry and preaching. Two of the other things, these harsh realities that you mentioned involve mass incarceration and corporate greed. Two things that a lot of people don't want to talk about, right? And how it impacts. We want to talk relationally one-on-one, but not systemically. But you name these as realities that are tied to real people that you know and that you love. So I'm wondering if you have any advice for pastors who are looking to move from sort of issue-based preaching to incarnational justice preaching, or just to kind of preachers who are just looking to name some of the harsh realities while still articulating hope, not kind of losing their people altogether. Do you have any wisdom for how you approach that?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is don't do it in your first week or month or even year.
Yeah.
That trust has to be built because I mean, look, when you come into in our system as United Methodist, when you come into a new appointment, there is some trust that you get automatically. Like they will trust you enough to bury grandma. They will trust you enough to hopefully baptize the new baby and maybe to do the wedding in your first year. So there is some trust that comes as a result of the office of pastor in most cases in healthy situations. Um, but that trust has a limit, and the way to earn more trust is through relationship building over time. And with that relationship building over time, then you gain that influence that then permits you the ability to speak these hard truths or to call to question some things that need to be called to question. But if the trust is not there, then you just more harm is going to happen.
Mm.
And I know that's hard for a lot of us because we are so bothered by some of the realities that are very much present in our world and in a very macro way, not just in the micro but in the macro, like the couple mentioned of corporate greed and mass incarceration. But it takes time to be able to have enough trust for people to hear you, and to actually take a look in the mirror or to question what they have bought into just because it comes from this side of the aisle or the other. Um, the other thing is, I think story is very important. Coming from Appalachia, I come from a story-based culture where that's the main way we communicate is through the telling of story. I can't tell you about me going to the store without it being presented in the form of a story, like everything is story. And so the value of story in bringing some of these topics to the forefront for consideration and for reflection. I think stories is extremely important. And along those same lines, you all alluded to it, like knowing people. In my case, I get to be the people. Hey, you know me, right?
Yeah.
Let me tell you about when I went to jail and how I had to sleep on the floor. All because it's a privatized jail,
Yeah.
part of the industrial prison complex that, is here for profit and what that means. Yeah. So me, I've been there. I've also held your mother's hand when she was taking her last breath. So let me tell you a story, um, knowing people, putting flesh on it, putting flesh on it's, you know, uh,
Yeah.
incarnational.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. When I always say it's something that we can't neglect. Like I think the best um, preparation for preaching or proclamation is pastoral care.
Mm.
It's knowing your people. It's going to where they are. It's visiting with them. It's hearing what are their worries day in and day out. And then they might have an appetite for you if you're regularly addressing things that are important to them. But if I'm always pulling from the news or way out here things that are overwhelming Rachel and these huge big problems I see in the world, because it's easy to get fired up right now about a lot of things. But I think our folks will lose sort of, attention span or energy or that same passion unless we know that we care about them, right? That we love them. We're tending to their lives and their concerns and what God has to say to them right now in this moment, kind of thing. Um,
I think the
yeah,
aspect of like meeting them where they are, an appetite in which they are able to devour what you're giving to them, right?
yeah,
I'm going to go back because I really enjoyed Richard's comment about like we need Good Friday before we can get to Easter
mm,
Sunday. And I remember I'm reminiscing now, and bear with us, Duke folks here, real quick. But I remember sitting in clinical pastoral education in Peggy Gold's office, who's now since passed and is saint amongst us now. She was my CPE
mm,
supervisor, and I was fresh on the floor. I was with the pulmonary unit and emergency department, and we're kind of reflecting and kind of going through. Okay, Rob, how's the week been? Is kind of the beginning, and I was telling her, and lack of better words for now, that I was trying to fix this person, right? Trying to hear their concerns so I can just pray over them. And she said, Rob, stop moving them towards Easter. They're in Good Friday right now, and that's okay.
yeah, yeah,
And that has like stuck with me, is like realizing where people are and being with them in that movement, not pushing them towards resurrection. You get forced resurrection onto somebody, right?
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes you have to sit at the foot of the cross or the silence and just be present
yeah,
amongst them. So I think that aspect of like pastoral care and of a deep listening to one another, to one another's story, the ability to tell our story, that it's heard and listened and elevated as well, amongst that takes time, trust, community,
absolutely,
and a
yeah.
boldness also to tell the story once you have these things built up around you. But yeah, don't push them to Easter. Sometimes Good Friday is a good, beautiful place as well, although more difficult, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. Or don't always push to like the shock and awe of it, but
That's right.
just sit with like kind of right where they are.
Hmm.
Yeah, that good pastoral care.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, for people who, as clergy, who are trained to have hard conversations with people, we can tend to kind of like, especially, well, I guess
Hmm.
we've been talking about preaching from the
Hmm.
pulpit. I think we often worry about how we will be perceived, or if
Hmm.
people will misunderstand what we're saying, or hear it the wrong way, or
Hmm.
who else is listening online. Am I about to be put on blast? Like it's hard to know even who your context is even more,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
who you're preaching to. But we have to get better as clergy, of being able to name the harsh realities, of being able to sit in the hard stuff, that our people are going through, that our world's going through, and giving other clergy permission to do the same.
Hmm.
We talked about earlier that permission giving piece, and there's where clergy are often put on that pedestal. There's expectations for how we will present ourselves, and what we can and can't talk about. And one of the other sort of brutally honest pieces you address is depression, and mental health concerns as a pastor. That's one of our missional priorities or discipleship priorities that our bishop has named. I think a lot of people have been sounding the alarm bell that like clergy are not okay. We need to take care of ourselves. So, what do you wish church leaders understood better about mental health? And maybe we're talking to lay church leaders
Hmm.
here, or anybody, any church leader, understood better about mental health, but especially maybe in that temptation to spiritualize what is deeply human. Maybe especially that temptation we've been naming of just pray it away, just get
Hmm.
to resurrection, like you'll be fine.
Well, first, I would say there's no replacement for authenticity. Like,
Mm,
um, even if it's saying some things that might make you or others uncomfortable, and um, authenticity, I think is something that um, communities are longing for,
yeah.
churches are longing for. Um, I think we're, as a people, pretty sick and tired of projection and
Mm,
pretending and noise and distraction. We just want what's really real.
mhm.
Um, I think that that's a deep longing of our soul to begin with. But now I think we're more hungry than ever, at least in my experience, for what is authentic. And so, yeah, the naming of the depression, that was something that I probably wasn't really intending to do in the beginning, when
Yeah.
I started the memoir project. But I realized as I went on that it is such a big part of my story. It is a truth. And I felt like it was something that needed to be named for a lot of the reasons we've already talked about, so that others can feel as if they can do the same, so that lay people can say, oh, wow, even the pastor,
Mm.
I do think that we, all of us in leadership, need to take seriously matters of mental health. And you mentioned, not spiritualizing everything, and part of this is just naming the reality that the whole person is a connected being, from mental to emotional to spiritual to physical, and to over anything, it will be done at the detriment of another part of the connected person. So if I over spiritualize this, that's going to be to the detriment of my mind or my body.
Mm.
It's just, it's one of those unavoidable things. We are what we are.
Mhm.
And I'm the same thing as you. And it was Terrence who said, I am human, and there's nothing about human that is alien to me. And my experience as human has been one where there's been a lot of depression. This is genetic, but at the same time, other times it's self-induced, and I name that. And then other times it's a byproduct of the heaviness of pastoral work. When you are in rooms where, a few of the things that I mentioned in the book, where 18-year-olds get unhooked from ventilators after an overdose. It might not be a clinical depression per se. You're going to feel,
Yeah.
you're going to feel some kind of way as a result of that. And that needs tending to.
Mhm.
That needs tending to. And I know that there's a real emphasis now within, denominational leadership for us to talk to people and to see therapists and to take medicine as needed, as directed. But it's still a hard thing to do. It's still hard to say, yeah, I feel this way, or, yeah, my thing for the longest time was, my dreams, my nightmares was more accurate.
Mm.
And a lot of the trauma that I had experienced through life and then in pastoral ministry was like literally haunting me in my sleep. And I tried to bear that alone, and let me tell you, it wasn't good. Come to find out, I had to talk to somebody, and it wasn't until I started talking to somebody and I was sharing openly and vulnerably that I found some freedom from it. And this was knowing better. Like the whole time I knew I need to talk to somebody. Like, this is not normal. This is your trauma having a real bearing on the quality of your life. You need to talk to somebody. And I probably went a year and a half before I talked to anybody. I named this for myself in hopes that somebody else don't wait a year and a half.
Yeah.
Because I waited a year and a half and I might not have had another week in me, just being honest. It's that serious. but yeah, I think that we as clergy also need to model it for those who we lead. Because if I can openly name, hey, I had to go talk to somebody, then that frees somebody else
Yeah.
up to do the same. And, it's just,
That's
it's
good.
not complicated. Yeah.
And I love that reminder because I think of, in whatever self care, spiritual care, mental care we want to frame it. I think too often clergy feel like they can't, or there's so many barriers. But if we reframe it as we're setting the model,
Mhm.
right, of how God intends for us. I love the phrase that you said that needs tending to.
Mhm.
Like if we set the model for how God wants us to tend to ourselves, in our own care and well being, then we can be providing that permission for others to do the same. I think of it in the context of renewal leave,
Mhm.
and I'm 12 weeks away. I can't do that. No one else's job works that way. What are my lay people going to think? And it's like, well, that's the wrong mindset, right? We're not trying to operate how the world works. We're trying for people to live in the freedom that God has for us, and you can do that, and what would it look like for your people to do that as well? Whether it's Sabbath, whether it's talking to someone, whether it's starting the medication that you've been putting off, and all of that. Thank you for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for
And,
that.
and another realization that I've come to through the process of writing the book, which is, this is part of it was therapeutic for me, is just, we have a lot of irrational fear as clergy. I can't do this because, well, what if,
Yes.
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, the people are going to talk about me because I take renewal leave because they didn't get renewal leave when they were working.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll worry about that stuff. And guess what? I've got one life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm human, death is going to come. Who
Mhm.
cares if the bishop says, we might need to put him somewhere else where there's a little less pressure because obviously he's not handling pressure. Like, that's a fear.
Mm.
Look, my bishop's
Yeah.
not moving me right now because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
tell the truth, but that's a fear that goes into, I better
Sure.
not tell
Yep.
the truth because, I'm
Mhm.
going to end up somewhere I don't want to be, or,
Mhm.
like, all that's irrational. I've got one life. I've got one life. And if I want to live that life, um, in the fullest sense, in a way that promotes me being happy, joyous, and free,
Yeah.
just tell the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
tell the
Amen
truth.
to that.
And, the irrational fears, that they come true, oh, well, there's tomorrow,
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And I do think this is where my experience of coming through addiction has really started to free me up a lot lately.
Yeah.
Because, hey, look,
Yeah.
shouldn't be here. It's only because of grace that I'm here. And since I'm here,
Mm.
what do I got to lose? Tell the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
That's good.
Just tell the
Yeah.
truth. Yeah.
Amen to
So,
that.
Mhm.
Well, as someone else who has that like hamster wheel of fear running through my head, I was
Mhm.
almost personally offended by the use of the word irrational. I'm just kidding. But then I heard you talking about yourself, so I'm going to let it slide.
Then it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. It's
yeah,
like,
that's
yeah,
how it
you just,
works. Or, yeah,
it
yeah.
Uh-huh.
is, you just spoke
Talk
a
about
little,
yourself. Yeah. Talk
yeah,
about yourself. Mix in a little humor,
yeah.
Yeah.
and,
Self-deprecate, yeah,
Yeah, it'll be okay.
and then yeah, well, yeah, you said a lot of truths just now that
Mhm.
hit, and so I appreciate that. Last question, if you have anything else to add, if there are other pastors listening right now who are serving communities marked by addiction or economic struggles or generational trauma, or maybe someone who's struggling with their mental health right now or has a history of trauma and abuse in their life. Maybe they're serving in Appalachia as
Mhm.
well. A fair bit of our conference is in that region as well. Is there any sort of hope that you would, if they haven't already heard it, which I'm sure they have, anything else that you would want them to know right now, just a word of hope for them?
I think that, so long as there's life, so long as there's breath, there is hope.
Mm,
Um,
Mhm.
And I think that one thing that my story does that, I'm not exactly comfortable promoting, but it is what it is the fact that you can't exactly write anybody off until there is no more breath.
Mm.
And you can't write off communities. You can't write off churches. Um, so long as there is and is, there's hope.
Mm.
And what we have to do as people who proclaim the good news is we have to make sure that that hope is being pointed in the right direction. Because right now well, it's not just right now. It's always been the case that, hope can easily be placed in all the wrong places. And it is a vital part of our work to make sure that hope is placed where it belongs, and that's not in the resiliency of the human spirit, nor is it in our intelligence or how good our systems are. Our hope is in Christ,
Yeah.
crucified, dead, and buried, and on the third day rose again. And yeah, that's the hope, is that so long as there's life, there's hope, and our story is one in which there is ultimately only life.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we have
Thank
some.
you.
I'm gonna go back to we got some tending to do.
Hmm.
Some tending to do, both within our own selves and in our communities. Right, that tending of stories of health, of life, of vitality, of loss, and of grief. And is it Kate Bowler that uses the word brutiful? Right.
Beautiful, maybe.
It
Yeah.
was somebody was like that is life is both, right? This brutal and beautiful in the same thing. And I think part of this conversation is knowing that and realizing that and naming that and journeying alongside and knowing, hey, we're not alone in this journey as well. And I'll say that's one of the gifts of being United Methodist is this connectional system that we have, this friendships and built-in system and structure, sure, but it's some of it is we get out of it as much as we put in too. So if we need
Mhm.
to seek out that therapist or seek out that clergy group or seek out that coffee that we've been hesitating upon here, I hope for Holy Roast listeners that this is our permission giving
Yeah.
to you too to say, hey, go and do these things. No one, we don't want to hold you back anymore. Be really honest with yourself and with each other, because that's when life, our one life that we are given, is worth living. Is
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
do that.
You said happy, joyous, and free. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, tend to ourselves, make decisions for ourselves that will allow us to flourish,
Hmm.
right? To be happy, joyous, and free. What a beautiful way to say that.
Yeah, that was really good. Thanks, Jabe.
Thanks.
Uh,
Thank you.
so I do encourage you before we get to our last part. Hey, pick up this book. They Call Me Jabe, a hillbilly tale of life, death, and grace. We didn't talk about your hillbilliness enough, but maybe that'll be part two one day, Jabe. That we'll talk about the hillbilly sense of Jabe. Fantastic. Pick it up if you yourself are going through this, your communities are going through this. You just need a good, humorous but real depth of a story. This one is a good one to pick up, and Jabe is super accessible and relational, and I'm sure we'd love to hear from you too. So we'll link him and this book in the comments, and thank you, Jabe, for spending some time with us. Here's some questions that we're gonna shoot out to you, and I encourage you, whatever comes off your head. Right, this is the brutal, honest part
Rapid
here, the
fire.
holy
That's
roast
right.
on this. So whatever comes to your mind. So if you could master any skill, what would it be?
Golf.
Golf. You
I was
might
going
Golf.
to
need that in
No,
ask.
Pinehurst. Yeah.
Yeah.
no, it's brutal. It's brutal. It's seldom beautiful, but often brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I
that's
gave
it.
up on golf a long time ago. I tried
Yeah,
for
and
like a little
I
while. And
watched. I watched you once or twice. You should have gave up. Yes.
It's not good. It's not good. We got to be
I've
honest
never
with
even
ourselves.
tried, and it felt like a barrier for me of like, you got to be a good pastor.
That's
You
right.
should know how to do that and like talk to people on the golf course or something. Yeah. Fine.
I think
Yeah,
Jesus
I
spent more
didn't
time on
start.
boats than in golf courses, so that's where I
Well,
want to go.
Yeah, I didn't
Next
start
one is
until yeah. Go ahead. I was going to say I
no,
didn't
no, go
start
ahead. Go ahead.
until I didn't start until I entered seminary, and big mistake, big mistake. But,
How do you take your coffee or tea?
coffee only and just creamer.
Just creamer. Who is a theologian that could be living or dead that you'd like to have lunch with?
Ooh, Augustine.
Augustine.
there you go.
Yeah. There was some
Yeah, I'd like
Augustine
to
in
hang
this
out
book.
with
I was surprised.
Augustine.
I didn't know you were paying
Yeah.
attention back then, so that's great.
No, I started paying attention well after I graduated. Yeah.
There's some
No,
hope.
so actually, I bookended the memoir with quotes from Confessions
Mhm.
because I viewed this very much as confessional. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Confessions, it's like, hey, look, here's why I need to confess these things. I need to do this. I'm bad, so on and so forth. And now I celebrate you, Lord. You are, all that is all. And then I need to confess some more.
Yeah.
So yeah. Poor wretched soul that I am. Yeah.
That's right.
So Augustine, 100% Augustine.
100%. What's something you would tell your younger self, but they probably wouldn't listen?
It's okay to be you.
Mm.
It's okay to be you. And weakness, vulnerability is okay. Yeah, it's okay just to be Jabe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, tell the truth always.
Yeah. I think part of your memoir is those things right there.
Yeah.
Those things right there, writing to your younger self. Yeah, it's really good to reflect upon. Last one. You're called up to bat. It's Major League Baseball. What is your walk-up song? What's blaring through those speakers?
Depends on the day of the week how I answer that question. Probably. Right now it is J. Cole. Nobody's perfect.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like
So
it.
I live near Fayetteville. I'm like 45 minutes from Fayetteville, which is where J. Cole is from. And I love good lyricists. I love good rap because for me, I learn a lot from good rap. Like I learn a lot from good stand up. And there's a beat that drops in Nobody's Perfect that right now has me very excited. But I could also come up and Rob, you probably appreciate this from where you're from. I could probably come up to Tuesday's Gone by Leonard Skinner. I could probably come up to that. Yeah.
I think those could both work. Depends on the day.
Depends on the day.
Yeah, I'm pretty eclectic. Like my day to day, what I'm playing is I cover a lot of bases. The last 48 hours, last 2 days has been praise and worship music, but it was J. Cole the day before. So
Yeah, there you go.
It's allowed.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Jabe. It's been a lot of fun. Good to catch up with you. Good to hear you're doing well, and good to read more into your soul with this book. And so appreciate your time with us.
Thank you.
thank you guys. I'm honored. Appreciate it.